come in, we'll just note their attendance if they're running a little late. So we'll start over here with Siobhan, and then we'll go around the table this way.
Siobhan McKinney, present.
Patrick Stervera, present.
Susana Villagomez, present.
Levi Chi, present.
Haley Glass, present.
Matthew Rathbun, present.
William Coates, present.
Perfect. It doesn't look like we have any counselors online at this point. Do we have a delegate? Oh yeah, Sarah, sorry. You didn't say your, I thought they were saying online. I was like, where?
Sarah Ankeny, present.
Perfect. And it looks like we had 2 other delegates just walk in. So if you guys want to make your attendance known for the record.
Nigel just present.
Steffi Calero, present.
Perfect. And would anybody like to volunteer to do the reading of the mission statement?
I'll do it.
Levi?
To support the evolving needs of the MSU Denver students by advocating in their best interests to enhance the university experience and opportunities.
Perfect. And we'll just note that Victor Delgado just came on online for attendance purposes. Moving on to the approval of the agenda, I believe there's a couple of changes to the order and maybe the removal of one item.
Yes, I would like to withdraw my recommendation for a vote up to how to handle Delegate William McEwen. I will address that in my updates, and has been advised to me that that's a personnel issue. So, yeah. And then I would motion that we move the second read of the amendment to the chairship either after the second read of the amendment to the guidelines or at the bottom.
Let's go ahead and, just to make it clear, move that to the bottom of the agenda. Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. Just for clarity's sake on that motion. Do we have a second for that motion?
I second it.
Any objections? Any abstentions? Perfect. And then do we need to do a motion to remove that item from the agenda or no, since you're the one that brought it forth? Okay.
No.
Okay. Perfect. Any other last minute changes to the agenda for today's meeting? Do you have a motion on the floor?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I second that.
Any objections? Any abstentions? Perfect. The agenda for today's meeting is approved then. We are a couple minutes early for public comment, but is there anybody in the room for public comment or online for public comment? Please make yourself known. And then just to note for attendance, Michael Warner is present.
Mike Warner, present.
Did you see that? I saw it pop up too. Somebody named Karen tried to join the meeting at one point. Is there anybody that's still waiting? And then just to note for attendance as well, Cy Holt just jumped in online. I guess not. If they do hop on, we'll still keep the same normal time frame like usual from 11:35 to 11:50. If anybody comes in for public comment, either online or in person, we will drop whatever business we are working on and we will give them their dedicated time. But with that, I've got the first thing on our agenda is the second read for the amendment to add guidelines and procedures. For sake of time, maybe if you just want to review if there was any changes and then just give a brief summary of this amendment.
So there weren't any substantial changes brought forth last week, so we didn't change anything. But this amendment is about how we can incorporate guidelines and procedures and sets up the process within our Constitution and also gives powers to the guidelines and procedures as governing documents.
Perfect. Does anybody have any remaining questions, comments, concerns in regards to this amendment before we move forward to voting? We've got it pulled up now. Going once. Going twice. What's the question? Oh, that one. Yes. There we go. Okay, any questions on this amendment? Questions, comments, concerns? Going once, going twice. Perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and motion to vote on this amendment by roll call then.
Second that motion.
Any objection, or hold on, let me go. We'll go Michael Warner,
I. Yay.
Will
Levi.
Coates,
Yay.
Patrick Savetta,
Yay.
Siobhan McKinney,
Yay.
Levi Chi,
Yay.
Matthew Rothba.
Yay.
Amelia Federico is not present, I believe. Victor Delgado,
Yay.
Susana Villagomez,
Yay.
and Haley Glass, yay. So, and we'll go back to Amelia Federico since she just walked in. Your vote on the amendment to add guidelines and procedures, a process to how to add guidelines and procedures for the chairships. You can abstain if you don't know. We did the first read of this amendment last week. It passes regardless. Just if you would like to make your vote known for the record. Okay. Amelia doesn't have a mic, but she abstained since she just walked in. But that amendment still passes.
Congratulations.
Perfect. Okay, moving on. Next up, we have that holistic teaching evaluation task force presentation. I have them coming in right at noon. So since they're not here yet, we'll just move on to the next thing, which will be the resolution to participate in Culture Clash. Mhm.
Because I still don't have access.
Having a couple of technical difficulties, so give me 1 second.
Yeah.
My bad, my bad. Okay. All right, Patrick, turning it over to you whenever you're ready.
Awesome. What's online? Thank you, Ms. Glass. All right. Good morning, everybody, or afternoonish. So resolution to participate in Culture Class tri-institutional event authored by Patrick Severa, endorsed by Susana Villagomez, Haley Glass. Abstract. Student government. The Student Advocacy Council, SGTSAC, aims to enhance awareness of the council and communicate our advocacy initiatives more effectively. SGTSAC also seeks to strengthen relationships with neighboring universities and colleges on campus. To support this goal, SGTSAC will participate in the Culture Clash tri-institutional event, a collaborative initiative with CCD and CU Denver by offering tamales, alfajores, and samosas to students. Whereas, the MSU the Metropolitan State University Student Government, Student Advocacy Council, mission is to support the evolving needs of MSU Denver students by advocating in their best interest to enhance universities' experience and opportunities. To achieve this goal, SGTSAC must be accessible to the student body. Whereas, the Culture Clash tri-institutional event will take place outside the Tivoli Commons and is anticipated to attract students from all three universities.
This will be an excellent opportunity to engage with students and share information about who we are and what we do. CCD will provide the venue, an officer, desserts for tabling, volunteer lanyards, and a folklorico performance. CU Denver will provide a mechanical bull, a dragon dance, agua frescas, and a photo booth. CU Denver Alpha will also contribute decorations for the event. TSAC will provide tamales, alfajores, and samosas. Whereas, the event aims to celebrate Asian and Latino cultures at Auraria campus, featuring clubs and organizations from all three universities. So Auraria campus students can become acquainted with these groups before transferring to those schools. So whereas SGTSAC will reach out to clubs and organizations from all three universities to encourage participation and ensure a diverse representation at the event. Therefore, be it resolved, SGTSAC will participate in the Culture Clash tri-institutional event on April 29th by serving that is a typo, by serving tamales and alfajores and the samosas, sorry. Yeah, that we just added that. So it's just tamales, alfajores, and samosas to students for free. The funding for these items will be taken from Public Relations Fund. So SGTSAC will staff the food and beverage stations for the duration of the event to interact with the student body with a sign-up link to follow.
Perfect. Mike? Go for it.
I make a friendly amendment to edit the last part of the resolution.
Seconded.
Any objections to that friendly amendment just to edit to the correct items that we will be purchasing for this event? Any abstentions? Perfect. We can go ahead and make that friendly amendment. Is there any other questions or concerns in regards to this resolution or this event?
I also want to see, Brandon, if you could go to the last 3 PDFs I've sent you, or actually I'll send it over
Stop
to,
sharing and then you can do it.
and then I'll go by those. That way we're all on the same page here. Which PDF? It's the last 3. 3? Yeah. Treasurers event and CCD multicultural celebration. Okay. So the first one up here is going to be the event schedule that we have which is going to be on the April 29th from 12 to 4 p.m. at the Tivoli Commons. Joanna. So here's the event schedule. So they're asking for a setup beginning from 8:45 to 11:45 a.m. The food trucks that we're able to arrive, must arrive before 9 a.m. From 12, it's the event space opens. You're gonna have music playing around, speakers all around the event space, and from 12 to 4 is gonna be the club's tabling, and they're gonna have at least one person from each club to walk around the event space and engage with students to attract crowd. And they're gonna provide a QR code. So if you guys know any clubs or if you yourself would like to participate, definitely go into the Roadrunner link and you can. And it was just sent out to the officers from CMI. Additionally, we have here the food trucks gonna be from 12 to 4, and then from 12 we're gonna have the bubbles handed out, and this is just how the process is gonna be. We have music coordinators and our mascots. A mechanical bull is gonna be there. They're gonna have a loteria from 1:30 to 2, just how it says right there. You just scroll a little bit down, and then they're gonna have a piñata for half an hour, and then we're gonna have the 2 dances. So we're gonna have 2 dances. One is like a Latin folklorico baile, and the other one is a dragon dance from the Chinese dancers. And we have closing announcement and acknowledgements and teardowns can be from 4:15 to 6 p.m. So if we need, we're going to be sending out something here soon for us. So if anyone wants to volunteer for this event, they can volunteer, have the ability. Just wanted to make that evident. And then next one, if you could pull up the treasurers, that'll be the budget. Okay. So this one's kind of formatted oddly, so this is what CCD SGA is going to be spending. It's going to be $2,000 total with the venue, the officers, the food trucks. volunteers, the pasteles cisnes, the boba, and the parking is to be announced. So there's going to be a total of $2,082. Us, on the other hand, we're going to be paying for the alfajores and the tamales, which it should have been updated, but total, how much did that come out? Yeah, it came out to 1,400 as is stated there. And then CU Denver is going to be paying 4,190. They're paying the mechanical bull, dragon dance, folklorico, photo booth, agua frescas, egg rolls, and wontons. And the CU Denver Alpha is going to be paying 450 for the decorations.
Any questions, comments, concerns in regards to this event or resolution? Seeing as there are no questions, do I have a motion on the floor?
A motion we vote on this.
Any objections? Any abstentions? You motioned to vote, so now let's actually vote. Is there anybody in opposition to this resolution? Any abstentions on this resolution? Perfect, then it passes.
Congratulations.
Perfect. I do see that Dr. Evans is online. Dr. Evans, there's still two others that are planning on joining you, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
And they
perfect.
should be in person.
Okay, perfect. We'll wait until they get here in person then. I think if we have that starting around noon, so we have time to move into our other amendment. I am gonna limit conversation on this one for the sake of time. We're gonna go ahead and give it 7 minutes after we do the initial reread and all of that. So, Will or Mike, sorry, you guys are twinning today. Can't tell you apart.
I copied him.
Yeah.
Is there any changes to this amendments that were made? Is there a reason we have to do a reread?
It looked like there were some additions, correct? Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we could do a reread, that would be great. Yes. And then Amelia, would you like to do the reread or do you want to yield your time? Go ahead, Sky.
Amendment to the chairship, written by Sky Childress and Amelia Federico, endorsed by Haley Glass. Abstract: the current language in the SU TSAC Constitution designates a responsibility of the chairship to provide a representative at President's Cabinet. SU TSAC is constantly working to remove hierarchy from the council and is amending its constitution to allow any councilor to serve as representative at President's Cabinet when selected by the council. Additionally, given there has been little to no need for the chairship to be classified as a committee, SU TSAC amends its constitution to declassify the chairship as a committee, given its only purpose is to maintain parliamentary order during meetings. The SU TSAC constitution will be amended to reflect the following changes. Article 1, Section 1 will be amended from: these leadership roles are intended to primarily maintain parliamentary order and represent the council at the MSU Denver President's Cabinet. 2, these leadership roles are solely to maintain parliamentary order during SU TSAC meetings. Article 1, Section 4, Subsection 1 will be amended from the list of standing committees. Remove 5, SU TSAC's Chairs Committee in its entirety. Article 1, Section 5 will be amended. Redesignate Section 2 advisor roles to be redesignate subsection 2 advisor roles to be subsection 3. Create subsection 2 chairship roles. The chairship exists as a necessity to maintain parliamentary order during meetings of SU TSAC. The chairship has the responsibility of timekeeping for meetings, keeping track of the members who wish to speak during a particular discussion, calling meetings to order, and taking attendance during meetings. While chairing meetings, it is the responsibility of the chair to keep track of those that wish to speak in an unbiased manner. Article 1, Section 4, Subsection 3 will be amended. Amend language to reflect that leads of advisory committees are either considered chairs or representatives of that committee. Below are examples for the Accountability Committee to consider when incorporating these portions of this amendment. For example, there is no reason for the President's Cabinet Advisory Committee to meet, so there need not be a chair of the advisory committee. The leads of the President's Cabinet Advisory Committee could be elected as representatives for that advisory committee. This could be the same for staff, faculty, senate, advisory committee reps, and advisory committee reps. Each of these representatives attend external to TSAC meetings, but these advisory committees never need to meet internal to TSAC, except to provide updates in general meetings. A counterexample would be the creation of a Know Your Rights Advisory Committee, Federal Policy Monitoring Advisory Committee, or an advisory committee created to examine issues with SACAB. Committees like these very well could need to meet to achieve the council's goals or mission for it, and any lead of that committee could be a chair instead of a representative, as they would need to chair meetings. Choosing representative / chair as the title for the lead of any given advisory committee would be up to the council.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to go ahead and give it 7 minutes for any final questions, concerns regarding this amendment, starting with Mike.
It's interesting what you've done here, Amelia and Sky. It's a lot together. I mean, from my, I'm not going to be a dead horse I did last week. I probably still don't support this because it is I think you should add this in pieces because I don't like it's all smushed together. If you want to talk about chairship, that's fine. But the rest of the committees, it's a lot to do in one amendment. And I don't think it's quite accomplishing what we want it to. So I probably won't say much on the matter. I'm still probably in opposition.
Yield.
You yield, Sky.
Yeah, I wanted to say that my original plan when helping write this amendment was not for it to include the part about the advisory committees, but the feedback that I received last week was that people might be confused as to what like President's Cabinet does. I also want to be clear that that section of this amendment, all of that example language wouldn't be like verbatim in the Constitution. That language is just guidance to help the Accountability Committee write that section. So it would just be adding language, adding the word representative next to the word chair everywhere in that section. It wouldn't necessarily be adding a bunch of language. But yeah.
Levi with a question.
So my question to kind of reinstate what I said like last time was with removing hierarchy from the council, wouldn't you be adding hierarchy if you were to just like create a committee and then add a chair to it, but you were taking away representatives to it and adding to it? I'm sorry, I'm confused about that one.
I'll yield, Sky.
What can you clarify what you're asking? I'm sorry.
So with removing hierarchy and creating a committee for it, but you'll have a chair for another committee, but for this one you won't have a committee, you just have representatives?
So for that section, adding the word representative as the leader of a committee in addition, I think that that's is actually just formalizing things we already do. I don't think we consider Amelia the chair of the Upback Advisory Committee, but Amelia essentially represents us at Upback and then has the duty to report back here. So it's not necessarily that we're now distinguishing between having a chair and having a representative. It's just the language that we're using to help people understand their role. And hopefully, as we add guidelines and procedures to the Constitution, which is what we just voted on, we can use that language to better help people understand what their responsibilities are, not necessarily what their power is. It's their responsibilities that would be designated.
And I had a follow-up question to it. Wait, Will, did you have something? Kill my train of thought. Here,
We can come back to you for sake of time. Does anybody else have any questions? Will?
I have a direct question for the chairs, actually. Have you, any of you, written any guidelines or anything?
Not yet, because I was waiting to see the outcome of this to figure out whether or not to include President's Cabinet and stuff. And then also, I believe there's a plan in place for us to write some sort of transition documents regardless. So I was just going to wait until that time and after Earth Week and the busyness.
Thank you.
Mike?
I'd be interested to kind of see those. I don't believe this amendment accomplishes that necessarily. I think honestly, I'd like to probably see some guidelines from the chairs. And then whether or not that goes to accountability committee for something final touch-ups, that's fine. But I don't believe this amendment accomplishes that.
Would somebody like to yield time?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I want to say that I agree this amendment does not accomplish that at all. I don't think that this amendment was made to create guidelines for the chairs. The language in here that creates chair roles is almost verbatim from the current chairs committee section, with very small changes. This amendment is quite literally solely to remove that hierarchy of the chairs having any additional powers other than just maintaining parliamentary order during meetings. I believe that the other critiques that were given, besides the fact that people had said they still wanted to keep some sort of hierarchy, the other critiques from last week, I believe I've met those within this amendment now. And I think that the people that think there may need to be hierarchy in the council and that think there's a valid reason to have that, just disagree with me. That's perfectly okay. Absolutely. But I think that as far as like the making sure chairs are defined, making sure they understand they need to be unbiased in meetings, I think that's accomplished by adding a section under the accountability section of the Constitution, and designating that where a president's cabinet is to go after we remove it from the chairship is also accomplished by this.
I have roughly 2 minutes left for questions. You withdraw yours. Amelia, did you still have your question or comment?
It was gonna be not a question, but a comment. I know some folks were getting hung. Really, we're focusing in on the word hierarchy because it is used in here, and I think that is one way to describe it. But I also think another way that you can think about it is, to me, there's a distinguishing factor between what it means to be a chair to maintain parliamentary order, and then what it means to attend something like president's cabinet. I think those are two different things, in my opinion. And I also think by separating them, it actually gives them both breathing room. Not to mention that this, if passed, would also instate somebody for a committee year long. So if somebody, for example, the way that we currently have the chair structure, would be on a semester to semester basis. But this way it would transition it to a committee. So somebody could stay there for the entire year instead of possibly having that transition. And this achieves that. And I think that for the longevity of the future council and for the longevity and the safety and security, whatever word you want to put in there, I think that this really does that. So if hierarchy is a word that's not sitting well, I think about it maybe in separating these two things and giving them their own space for the flow of the council.
Perfect. I did have Levi's hand first, and I have 20 seconds left for.
I'll be real quick. So with the concern about capacity and issues with breathing room, I think we're at a perfectly manageable level. I mean, me and Haley were able to meet the events and everything, and then meetings like this. So I think it'll be fine.
That's not currently in place.
No worries. We've got 7 seconds, but your comment is noted. No worries on.
Chair, I motion to vote on this.
Seconded.
All right. Any objections to voting? Any abstentions? Okay, perfect. We're going to go ahead and vote by roll call since this is an amendment. So just make your vote known by yay or nay. Or if you choose to abstain, starting with Michael Warner,
Nay.
William Coates, today would be cool.
Nay.
Patrick Severa,
Nay.
Levi Chi,
Hey.
Siobhan McKinney,
Yay.
Matthew Rothman,
Nay.
Amelia Federico,
Hey.
Victor Delgado,
Nay. Nay.
Susana Villagomez,
Nay.
and myself as a yay. I believe that amendments need a supermajority to pass. I have that as a 3-7 votes. The amendment unfortunately does not pass. So with that, it looks like we've got one of our other presenters here. Are we still waiting on one more? Okay, did you just want to go ahead and start? And then I know we have Dr. Evans online, I believe. Yeah, she's still on there. Wherever you feel most comfortable, you can sit over there is a good spot where everybody can see you.
Hey.
Cool.
I can see you. Honor protocol here.
Oh,
But also, yay.
I know.
Okay. I just came from there.
Okay, and then just to give preface for everybody, this is in regards to that holistic teaching evaluation task force that I brought up briefly at our meeting last week. I did also send you guys some forms in your email. I'm sure you guys didn't have the chance to review them because I just sent them this morning, so I wouldn't expect you to have reviewed them. But if you guys are able to pull them up for reference during this meeting, if that would be easier for you, you can definitely pull those up as well. And then maybe if we could just give everybody kind of like an overview of who you guys are, what exactly you're working on, because we mentioned it very, very briefly at our last meeting. And then Mike, did you have a
Yes,
comment
real
first?
quickly, you said holistic teaching, but then you also prefaced like explaining what that was. What is this? What
I'll have them explain it. Yeah,
Okay.
We'll dive into it a little bit more. We had
sounds good.
talked about it very, very briefly at our last
Okay,
meeting, kind of
sure.
just an update. So,
The camera.
okay, perfect. You can go ahead
Do you
and
want me to
start.
move over there?
Okay, cool. Okay. Good to go? Okay.
You're good to
Hi,
go. They're just
everyone.
adjusting the camera.
Great. And please do, Haley, keep me on time, Levi. I tend to talk a lot. So hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Shalane Lechuga, and I'm a professor in the Department of Chicano and Chicano Studies, but I also have an administrative appointment in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion as the Director of Faculty Diversity Research and Development. I am here today to speak to you about the Holistic Teaching Evaluation Task Force, and I'm a member leading that task force. Two of my colleagues are, one of my colleagues is here online, Dr. Brooke Evans. Maybe, Brooke, if you want to quickly introduce yourself. And then I'll just say my other colleague who will be coming in the wings in a moment here, Dr. Shalini Servasan will be coming in as well and sharing a little bit with you. Brooke, did you, or Dr. Evans, did you want to share anything quickly?
I'm Brooke Evans. I am the Associate Dean of the College of Aerospace Engineering, Computing, Design, all of that stuff. My heart is in math and math education, and yeah, I'm here to support teachers and students.
Awesome. So I'll try to be brief in explaining. We're here today for a couple of things. One is first and foremost to share some additional information with the fuller council of you all on the, sorry, I'm straying from the mic, on the Holistic Teaching Evaluation Task Force, but to get your feedback, preliminary feedback on a document and process we hope to share with the Provost Council on student ratings of instruction. And then three, ideally get some participation from this body in ways that are meaningful, intentional, and can ensure communication back and forth. And ideally, it would be wonderful to have a representative from this body sit on the task force. But if that doesn't make sense or is not, if there isn't capacity to do that, we can also talk about other ways to ensure that that communication happens. Nonetheless, as I shared, I am one of the leaders of this task force, and it came together in response to ongoing concerns around the efficacy and usefulness of student ratings of instructions, of instruction SRIs, in terms of concretely, but also more broadly, how evaluation of teaching. There's my colleague, come on in. Also how we evaluate teaching for our faculty in general. And so we shared a couple of documents. Maybe I'll just pause and let my colleague introduce themselves quickly. And I was just about to launch to an overview, so I can continue to do that. But
hi, I'm Shalini Srinivasan. I'm a faculty member in the Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry, and I chair the Faculty Senate Diversity Committee.
awesome. So several folks from various bodies on campus, myself in the ODI office, Dr. Servasan over in Faculty Senate, and others came together to try to address this challenge. And that is that at this point, we recognize that there's an over-reliance on SRIs in our teaching evaluation processes, which feed into our tenure promotion processes. And several, the literature, as well as our own initial data collection efforts, have demonstrated that often SRIs reflect student biases, especially those related to race and gender. And unfortunately, that can then disadvantage particular populations as a result. We also know that there's a demonstrated lack of reliability and validity in terms of measuring teaching effectiveness. And we know that even in the best of circumstances, there isn't a direct correlation between SRI scores and actual, or I should say, overall sets. Those are student evaluations of teaching instruments. There isn't a direct correlation between the scores that one gets on those things and actual quality teaching. But there is lots of good evidence that we can create an unbiased instrument that is informed by evidence-based practices and includes evidence-based items. And we also want to ensure that we're preserving a mechanism for students to provide feedback via, right, some kind of instruments. We value and we deem as absolutely necessary that student voice, student feedback, student perspective. So we took this research, we took this request to Provost, then interim provost, now Provost Matt Makeley, and he has charged a task force with further reviewing the use of SRIs on our campus and making recommendations and proposals. And so I shared the formal charge with Haley and Levi. And as part of the task force, he specifically requested that TSAC be involved in this work. I'll say maybe one or two other quick things, and then I'll turn it over to my colleague to talk about one of the interim steps we've identified that we'd like to put forward to the provost, to the provost council, which is the deans, the associate deans, and the provost and some of the VPs in that space. Nonetheless, there have been two previous committees that have attempted to kind of look at this and address this ongoing challenge. And they have piloted instruments. They have proposed changes to the faculty employment handbook, which articulate frameworks for how faculty are to be assessed and evaluated, not just for tenure and promotion, but also in writ large. And really good work has been done, but we haven't been able to kind of move that forward in terms of policy or practice, direct policy or practice thus far. So we don't want to just disregard that. We want to build on that and continue that effort. Maybe I'll pause there for questions, but also then turn it over. Any questions? Mike?
Hello, hello, Dr. Lachuka. So I'm curious then, you mind explaining more? So say I fill out my SRI now, what does that involve? What's the process of reviewing that?
Sure.
Does that involve faculty getting promotion to tenure? Do you mind explaining that a little more further?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So so right now you fill out the SRIs and the faculty themselves get that information summarized numerically, but also a listing of all the qualitative comments. That also goes to supervisors, which for faculty are department chairs, and they're used in evaluation decisions. For our tenure track faculty, they have an evaluation process where there's a faculty employment handbook that outlines policy around employment, promotion, retention for all faculty. Departments are then empowered to articulate and operationalize those policies into guidelines. They're called departmental guidelines that talk about this is what faculty have to do in their jobs at these different ranks and levels. And sometimes they say, you have to achieve a mean score of 4.0 or, not less than 0.5 of a mean in order to get promoted or in order to be retained. Other departments don't quite have that level of detail. Like our department in Chicano Studies, we say that faculty have to consider and reflect on all forms of student feedback, including SRIs, including peer evaluations of their teaching, and including their own reflection, and they have to write about it in their narrative as they're pursuing promotion. So that's kind of how this information is used. But we find that again, right, like even as some departments try to sort of balance that instrument with other forms of feedback on teaching, other departments really give those SRIs a lot of weight in those promotion processes, in those retention processes. And sometimes that can be a challenge because we know, again, some of the bias can seep into that. And if that becomes the key factor upon which someone is evaluated, and we know that it's not totally correlated to teaching effectiveness, and there's some other sort of noise, if you will, seeping into that, then that can be problematic for retaining faculty, particularly those from marginalized identities that we know the scholarship tells us these instruments tend to not favor. Does that help? And then maybe I'll invite Dr. Srinivasan to share, who's also been working on this. If you have a follow-up, go ahead.
Follow-up question, go for it, Mike.
Quick follow-up in relation to that then. So at least maybe from your personal experience or your position in Chicano studies, how often do professors personally take the weight of these SRIs? Because like just from my knowledge of like the business, I'm in the business center. Say you have a really bad teacher, or like say you a decent teacher but you had a bad final, for instance, that can heavily bias whether or not the teaching was actually good that semester.
Yeah.
So
Do you want to speak to that? I can, but I also want to open it up. Okay. So I do want to say that faculty very much value student feedback and are continuously integrating the voices of students. Some are better than others. Some do it in more formal and informal ways than others. And frankly, with an SRI, by the time you get that information, the class is already over. So you can't really correct course midstream. And so faculty do review and reflect and seriously consider the feedback, if that's the question that you're asking. Absolutely. And supervisors or department chairs in this case do take a look at that feedback. But again, it can sometimes be difficult to sort of parcel out what's substantive and meaningful from things like, you know, the literature tells us, and from my own personal experience, you know, we know that women are often expected to take care of feelings and emotions of our students. And that's part of, you know, how many of us do operate in terms of our inclusive teaching practices. But at the same time, that expectation is not necessarily being made of other faculty. And so sometimes comments will say things like, I'm trying to think of a concrete example, things that are sort of outside of the realm of what's expected of a faculty member that often reflect more bias than expectation of what you know, faculty should be doing, if that makes sense. Does that help elaborate? I'll try to think of a concrete example. I can say a colleague, you know, was well, let me think about some more concrete examples just to help illustrate the point, but hopefully that helps answer your question.
Lelia.
Oh, I'm sorry,
No, you're
Haley. This
totally
is your
fine.
responsibility.
Go for it.
Oh, yeah.
Are these reviews, do they at all impact faculty members' ability to get tenure?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I asked that because I know for faculty members, getting tenure is really, really important. For those who want to be full-time, and also like there's especially tenure track for folks who want to be you know, chair. You know, there's very few women of color chairs on this campus, and then women of color faculty on this campus as well. And I think that I could definitely see how these reviews could be a hindrance to that if they're not evaluated equitably, or the ways in which they are being evaluated. And so I remember when you asked me about this task force, it was still kind of in the early stages, and I was like, I'm really excited to see where this goes. And so I'm now getting a better understanding of it, and I'm glad the council is as well. And this is something that I'm glad that TSAC's involved in. So thank you for coming to visit.
Do you want to share?
And then real quick, just to keep us aware of time, it's
Where are we at?
12:15 right now. I have y'all until 12:30-ish roughly. So just in case there's like other things that you need to cover as well, or you want our opinions on, just
Maybe you can respond and then you can talk about
Sure.
it. Yeah.
I need to talk into this.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So just to go back to your point, you know, my background is in assessment and evaluation, and it's not necessarily that, you know, the data that we collect from those SRIs is only as good as the instrument itself, as good as the survey itself. So it's not necessarily that, you know, students may be making certain comments, or, you know, the data is not substantive because it was intentional, but it's just the nature of the survey itself that lends itself to that kind of data. So the goal here is really to think about, how we can get students to really reflect on their course and situate them in that course when they take those surveys. So, okay, so I'll kind of get to my part in this. So the diversity committee, we're only made up of 3 members, including myself, but each one of our members has had some kind of personal story that they brought to the committee on, things that they were maybe dented for in their tenure applications or even when they went up for review, but others in their department were not. And, other faculty who are not of color, kind of slid through the process. So what we wanted to do was, this is obviously going to be a multi-pronged approach. We want this to be as holistic as possible. So we were just looking for ways to try and introduce some mechanisms that that didn't require a whole lot of barriers or challenges to introduce in multiple places throughout this process. So the thing that we proposed was to include a almost like a cover page of a student acknowledgement, which mimics very commonly used land acknowledgements now, and more as a call to action. And the action being mitigating the bias associated with student evaluations of teaching. So with this acknowledgement, and I'm not sure if everyone has a copy of that, but with the acknowledgement, what we did was we wanted to situate the student in the confines of their course, of their learning environment, because oftentimes when students are taking surveys, and not all students, but students tend to compare, like, oh, I'm in this course, but this is how my other course in this class went. And that's not necessarily very helpful when offering a review of something or a review of a person. So we just wanted to introduce some things that would, one, contextualize the experience for the student as much as possible. So, situate them in that course, make them think about or reflect on practices that are within the instructor's control. Because sometimes there are certain decisions that are standardized across the department outside of the instructor's control. So we just wanted to make some things very clear that, when they're completing the survey, they are thinking of things that are within the instructor's control. So we just wanted to introduce some ideas like that, which try and provide context for not just the survey at large, but also for why the student is completing the survey at all. Okay, so the acknowledgement is up there. So you'll notice that, we wanted to keep it brief, but also try and contextualize it as much as possible to the student's experience. So localize them to that course as much as possible. Okay.
You guys should have access to this in your email that I sent you this morning as well, but we just put it up there for reference.
So
I did see at one point you had a question. Did you still have your question, or have we moved past it?
I don't have a question
Okay,
anymore.
perfect. Sorry, just wanted to double check while we had a little break there.
Thank you. Yeah. So the way we feel this would get operationalized is currently the survey or the SRI just launches directly into the survey and students have to provide responses. This would act as a cover page of sorts. So students would see this first, check that they have read or they've acknowledged this, and then move on to the survey.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, I have a quick comment on this, just because I kind of know my generation a little bit. I think I like the idea. I do believe that the SRIs are not functioning the way they're intended. But I do think it needs kind of a bigger overhaul than that.
Yeah.
I have some suggestions, honestly, but I think this is a good start. But I think a lot of students will just click past it. They won't read it. That's just knowing my generation, knowing how I would see this, because a lot of times SROs are brought up right now when you're in the middle of your finals. You're not going to Canva. You're trying to get to your final, submit something. That's kind of what it is. So a lot of times I would just scroll past it. Oh, I'll get to it later. I'll kick that block down the road there. Now, I do like the idea of you kind of making them do it. I think that's a good idea. You should probably make the students do it. But I think may add some more to it. But this is a good start, I think.
Yeah. So, the alternative to this is, of course, offering faculty a platform in their classrooms to bring this up. So they could bring these same discussion points and tell their students like why they're doing what they're doing. However, I do recognize that some faculty might be hesitant to bring up these discussions in class, because they might risk risk bias and think it might border on being coercive, and that could again like trigger unfavorable or favorable responses. And from the student side, if the student feels like, oh, the faculty have talked to us about this, now we have to give them a good review or something, or it might affect our grade in some way. So we've offered that suggestion to faculty, but I'm just not sure how many faculty would be entirely on board with having a conversation like that with their classrooms, or just be, comfortable with that. And, getting the right language in without, like you said, risking any level of bias. So.
Other question, Mike?
Well, just kind of a comment afterwards.
Yeah, go.
It's kind of a balancing act. I can see. I can absolutely see. The hesitantness of a professor to do so. I'd reckon to see. I assume a lot of these SRIs do not go filled out, and a lot. I just know that from the business building specifically. Like it sounds like you're bargaining with students. But the best way to get them to fill it out is, hey, professor, I'll give you 10 extra or like 5 extra points or whatever on like the final or something like that. And I got the whole class to do it right away. Now, whether they put some substantive feedback into those SRIs is another story altogether. But it was a start there, and that's how I've seen it be very effective. But that's just a comment I've seen. So
I have Will, and then if somebody wants to yield their time to Sky.
Yield the Sky.
It's not, I don't know how, if we should be incentivizing students that way either, though, because I see that as a double-edged sword too, as do this and we'll give you extra credit. I don't know if that's the best way either. I do have a concern with that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you
Yeah.
want to just respond, and then we'll.
Yeah, and I'll write down some of these suggestions and also some counterpoints. But as you say, is it Michael or Mike? Mike is okay. This is an interim step because right now we have nothing, and as you can imagine, it's going to take some time, and necessarily so. These two previous task force have been working on this for 10 years. So all to say, this isn't the be all and end of all, and this certainly isn't the magic, solution, but we're hoping that it's an interim step on the path to a more holistic way to assess teaching writ large. And again, I really want to emphasize is that it preserves the opportunity for students to provide feedback, voice, perspective, because that's critical in the teaching and learning process. So you're right. We do need more things.
Perfect. And then Siobhan already yielded, so Sky, if you want to ask your question.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask for some insight in how, once this data comes in, how you guys look through it to see what you think might be genuine data, see what you think might be someone just clicked through it, etc.
So institutionally, I'm not exactly sure how this data is looked at. The SRIs get sent by someone from IT, I believe. So where the repository is and how it's looked at, if at all, I'm not exactly sure of that process. Every instructor, though, does get their responses. So we get our individual data. And after that, it's very contingent on what our department guidelines say on how we want to use that data. So at writ large, I'm not exactly sure how the institution is using it, or if we've been doing any kind of, observing trends on, have comments been harsher towards faculty of, from marginalized communities, faculty of color. I'm not exactly sure of any kind of broader analysis that has been done. So I'm not sure.
Real quick, we have 5 minutes left, so I just want to make sure you guys have enough time to share any additional information you have. I also have 2 pending questions, so I don't know if you guys would rather share anything else in this last 5 minutes, take those questions and then try and share, or
We'll take those questions, I think.
Take the questions.
I think take the questions,
Okay.
but also it would be great if we could have some guidance from you all as in terms of next steps for ensuring TSAC participation in this process and or how we engage meaningfully with this body. And if that can be done offline, I'm happy to do that offline as well, but.
Perfect. Sky, was your follow-up brief, or did you still need? Okay, very brief. Go for it, and then we'll go to Mike then.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if that data goes to the faculty members individually and their chairs. Is there ever a time when the deans peel over some of that information just to look at it?
Absolutely, deans have access to that. And I will say, for tenure track faculty and tenured faculty, there's a review process and there are levels of review that department, chair, dean, faculty senate, RTP committee, and then provost and president and board of trustees. And theoretically, they have access to all of that information because it's included in the portfolio that gets reviewed at every level. For non-tenure track faculty, they're reviewed on a regular basis, whether it's year or every 3 years. I think it's yearly by their chair, and the chair has access. But all of the folks in that sort of chain of supervision do have access to that information and can review it. And it is a part of those formal review processes.
Perfect, Mike.
Yes. I'll add there. Yes, I serve on the board. We've approved many tenure track faculty. In my 2 years I've been there. It's made for the broader council. I do think this fundraiser, this task force that's what I'm looking for is worth the time of the student governments and worth supplying a member to. Now we just had elections. I'm not sure how that works. I graduate, so thank you. I appreciate it. But I think this is something very much so the next student government should take on. I'm not sure what your schedule looks like throughout the summer, but I think it could be like, depending on the capacity of the council throughout the summer, you could definitely supply a member to meet with y'all throughout then. But what does this committee look like in terms of what y'all need from us?
So the committee started meeting when we were formally charged in January. And so we are meeting every 2 weeks, and we're still determining what our summer meeting practice will look like. We have 4 lines of strategy we're pursuing right now that are indicated in the document that we shared with you all. And so, but we want to be amenable and responsive to the whatever makes sense for this body. And frankly, the summer will probably be less because we also have faculty who are on this task force who are not on contract, and we don't want them to ask them to do free labor. So I think we have to determine what the summer will look like, but absolutely we will continue to meet every 2 weeks in the fall.
Patrick?
I kind of was going forward with what Mike was saying. I wanted to give you guys the opportunity to express more of the task force, like the timeline and deadlines that we have, like what Mike was saying, like, what are you looking out for us? What are the expectations that you guys have for the counselors entering? And, similar to the summer, I think this would be a task force that obviously would be ongoing from like, if you restart this year, because I know you guys just started this recently. And given the opportunity to other future councils that we have that have just been elected for 25, 26 for the next fall. I think definitely for us, just living in us. So what's expectations for individuals? What's the timeline? How can we help? What are the things that you really are looking for a student in our perspective? Not obviously our opinion, but what kind of situations or things do people expect to enter in this process? And yeah.
Sir Haley?
We've got about a minute if you
Okay.
want to.
I'll make it
briefly.
quick. Tell me your name again.
Patrick.
Thanks for your question, Patrick. Quickly, the most immediate feedback is we'd like some feedback on this student acknowledgement. And we've gotten some here today, but if you have additional feedback offline, we'd absolutely welcome that because we do want to present it to the Provost Council for consideration and just to sort of get their feedback as an immediate interim step. I've spoken with Haley and Levi about keeping this body informed this summer, and then perhaps a formal representative to the committee that could meet with us on every 2 week basis, or like obviously we can step in and out of that as needed. Going forward would be great. There is a timeline an anticipated timeline in the document we provided. We're already having to shuffle that timeline because the reality of the robustness of this work is hitting us, and we were ambitious in the timeline. So there's a timeline there for the work itself. And at this point, folks have plugged into what makes the most sense for them and what their capacity is, folks on the task force. So I would say that would be the same for a TSAC rep come fall. But it's ever evolving, and but also if there were a need for a tighter timeline or maybe more detail, I'm happy to work collaboratively with the TSAC representative in the way that's gonna, again, allow for that meaningful and intentional engagement on the part of this body. Was that 1 minute?
That was perfect. Yeah, we're right at 12:31. So right on time. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here and for sharing this information with us. If you guys have any additional feedback, maybe it would be easy if you guys could just reply to that email that I sent you with the documentation. That way you have it for reference. If any delegates want that as well, I don't think you're included on that automatic TSAC email. I'm happy to share that forward with you guys as well. I can just throw it in the chat. If you guys have any additional feedback in regards to the student acknowledgement specifically, since they'll need that feedback. When would you need that by? On May 5th. Okay, so we'll make sure you guys get that feedback before then. And then if you have any other comments about how TSAC could be involved in this or any additional items you want them to consider as they go forward with this task force, just reply to that email. And if you're a delegate, let me know if you're interested in giving feedback on that as well. Awesome. Thank you so much. Perfect. And with that, all that we have left for today on our agenda is going to be the announcements and updates. I forgot to bring this forward at the, am I missing something? Is there something else? Oh, okay, perfect. I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the meeting, and I completely meant to, but there is an ask for us to move into a closed session towards the end of this meeting. I would like to allocate roughly half an hour towards that. So if we can aim to have announcements done by 12:45, that would be awesome. This closed session will be talking about not business, which is why we're moving it to a closed session, but it's just something that was wanted to be discussed with the council, not necessarily delegates. So you guys will be welcome to leave after we finish announcements and updates. But yeah, if we could just keep that in mind as we're going into announcements and updates. I think I will still go through the list like normal since we have about 15 minutes, but if you could try and keep it like less than a minute for each update, just make it something new. Don't talk about stuff we have already heard about if possible. Okay, starting with Board of Trustees, anything from there, Mike?
Did you say me first?
Mm-hmm.
I have no updates.
No updates, perfect. I know we did have a SACAB meeting today. Amelia, you are good to leave. You have a question? Go for it.
Is this special session at the end of our meeting today? Is that what you were saying?
It's going to be a closed session.
Okay.
It's non-business related.
Okay. Will it be virtual as well or no?
No,
No.
Okay.
but I don't think you need to be there necessarily.
Okay.
So you should be fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I know we did have a SACAB meeting today. If we could keep any announcements brief, Will. SACAB.
I apologize. Yeah. For SACAB, we talked about helping ASCP. I hope I got the acronym correct.
Area Sustainable Campus Program.
Yes. In purchasing a machine that pumps oxygen into compost and makes it go bad faster. I don't know, like gives oxygen to the germs and stuff to do their thing to break down compost, and it makes it much quicker. So SACAB approved the purchase of that machine for them, which is good. I'm glad for that. And then we were discussing a purchase for some tech for SACAB for their office room. It had to be pulled from the meeting because there were some inaccuracies in the resolution that we caught. So they're presenting that next week. It's basically just them purchasing like not the monitors, but the computer itself for the monitors for the office. And then we also, I'm trying to remember, there's one last thing. Oh, the bylaws. They're still asking for input. Let me or Matt or Siobhan know if you want to look at the SACAB bylaws, please. We want the input of everyone here. as we've had some issues before in the past. So I think it'd be beneficial for all of us, or to take a look at those bylaws and see if there's anything we can do to improve them. Other than that, I have no other updates per se, Cab.
Perfect. Elections.
All right. Well, we had our election results posted yesterday. I'm going to do a brief run through of what those results were. I think Brandon's bringing up. Yeah, there we go. We had 402 ballots cast, which is awesome. That beat the goals we wanted. So, best election ever. Am I right? No. So for our results, our student trustee next year will be Maria Garcia. Our state cab representatives will be Cyrus Holt and Rowan East. And our general counselors will be Steffi Calero, Sky Childress, Emma Fox, Matthew Rathbun, William Coates, Irvi Paul, Susana Villagomez, Patrick Severa, and Faye Berry. So congrats to all of you who are here, and congrats to all the winners who are not here as well.
Congrats.
All three of the referenda passed, which is great news, I think. If Brandon, if you don't mind scrolling to the second to last page and then the last page, I just want to show you all the percentages they passed by. This PDF is in the group chat, and then we're going to upload like even like further breakdown of the polls later today to the website if you want to look at them. But the main thing I wanted to highlight here is that the first referenda regarding ICE on campus passed with 87% approval. The second referendum to disclose MSU's partnership with Lockheed Martin passed with 74% approval. And the third referendum to establish a trans bill of rights at MSU Denver passed with, it's at the bottom here, 77.77% approval, which is a cool number. So yeah, that's all the elections info as far as results go. If you want like more details, like I said, we're going to upload a little bit more later today probably, or you're welcome to ask me any questions. This doc has like the basic graphs, but we didn't want to put like 10 pages of graphs in this one. So we'll upload that as a separate doc. We believe have sent out the acceptance email. So for those folks who are here, please make sure to check your emails to formally accept your position. There's a Qualtrics form basically that just gets on the books that like you have been elected, and then you will serve on the council. So that'll make things super official. And yeah, thanks all for a great election season.
Quick comment.
For all of those who ran, also turn in your expense report to Sam by the end of the day.
That's true. I'll be sending individualized emails to those who have not yet.
Perfect. Moving over to accountability committee for a brief update.
We'll see how brief. It's come to the accountability's attention that a delegate, William McEwen, has not been participating at all. We've reached out to him and he has not responded. I'm sure the advisors have reached out to him as well. The concern also was that he removed himself from the chat, which is kind of a sign of him not wanting to participate. And so I will be working with the advisors in the removal of William McEwen from the delegacy program. Because again, he has not met the minimum requirements ever since the delegate program started. And it's almost the end of the year, so.
Is it a necessary comment, Mike?
It is.
Go for it.
Thank you. So then I have a question then. So, is the Mr. McEwen's, William, is he underneath the accountability committee or the council? Who is to determine when the removal of this delegate?
Can I pass that to Stephen?
Yes, I believe Stephen has a.
Mike, this is a personnel matter. We should not be discussing this in public.
Mike.
Hello. We don't have to discuss in public, but from my reference on the board, personnel matters do get voted on by the board, whether or not. So whether
We
or
are not the board of trustees.
but we do pay this is coming out of our budget. We interviewed this person. We don't have to
Agreed.
discuss it more. We can discuss it offline, but I do have a question on how that goes.
And we can talk about that offline.
Okay, I'm gonna move over to budget committee. Do you have a brief update?
Yeah, just a quick shout out. Thank you to everyone who sent out the receipts. I have received them. A budget committee right now, the budget's today, we're not like in any danger or anything like that. Everything's going well. I'll just give you a final update once I put in all those new receipts according for the office budget and for public relations due to the new event that we also just funded for. And Monday, I'm going to have a meeting so we can, or Wednesday, hopefully as soon as I can, for any clubs or organizations. They're asking for funding from TSAC. So I'm going to be sending out a calendar invite. So if anyone can let me know if they'll be available offline, that'd be great. The funds haven't changed since last session. So the 9,610 is what we have with the school supplies and all the current resolutions passed, except for those passed today.
Perfect, thank you. PR, do you have a brief update?
Yeah, I just want to give a brief update for food for finals. There was a resolution that's going to be posted. That will be on next Friday, but we have confirmed everything for food for finals, so I don't think we should be worried about it as much. And then just again, thank you for passing the resolution for the cultural clash, and we'll be sending out just availability just for them to know who's willing to volunteer. And that is pretty much it for my updates.
Perfect, thank you. For sustainability committee, I just want to say thank you to everybody that came to Earth Week this week and helped participate in all the events, especially everybody that helped with our own tabling where we were decorating the tote bags. That was a very, very, very successful event in my opinion. So thank you guys all for your help with that. Anything from faculty and staff senate? Faculty senate, staff senate?
Yes, so the president, we had a presentation, Q&A with the president, and most everyone's concern was about the immigration, and she had already spoken to us before prior, like last month, I think it was. Yes, and she gave the same exact details and information.
Perfect.
And then Matt.
So I'm gonna go back to the recording and find the time frame of the questionnaire. And there was also an update on the UpBack budget and everything done by a accounting professor. So I'm also gonna earmark the timeframes for that and send it out in the group chat so people can also see that in more detail, because there was no way we could summarize some of that information as well as they could.
Thank you. Any delegates with quick updates? Sky?
I don't necessarily have an update. I have a question. Is that okay? Okay. As far as I understand, the delegate pilot program did say that for a delegate to be removed, it would require a vote of the full council.
It didn't say anything about the removal, but it does say that there's a minimum requirement for receiving the stipend. So if they do not meet those minimum requirements, they don't receive their stipend. That is laid out in the resolution. However, removal of a delegate from the program is not laid out in the resolution. So
Okay. I don't want to argue. I'll be really very brief. It does lay out that to be removed, it has to be a full vote of the full council. I just wanted to let you guys know, I'm not arguing with anything. You guys decide. That if you're going to have a vote for any piece of business to discuss and debate about it, that cannot be done with an executive session per sunshine laws. I say this from an accountability perspective, not that I really care if it's done inside or outside executive session. I just want to make sure that we're complying with that.
Will, did you have something to say?
Yes, I agree with Sky. It will be discussed with the advisors and then we're brought back to the council.
yeah, it does lay it out in there for any disciplinary actions for delegates, including the removal of stipend and or removal from the program. The decision will be made by a full vote of the council. Thank you, Sky, for bringing that to our attention. Okay, any other, or Reed, did you have an announcement update? No? Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and move on to open floor announcements. Levi?
I'll make this quick. So as we all know, we've been working throughout, people have been assigned to the OER task force has been working on some of the events for this year. And recently they just started a new club and they're having their first meeting May 1st. So if you are interested in getting involved in OER or organizational efforts, which is basically open educational resources, free tuition, or not free tuition, free textbooks, free online courseware and stuff to make tuition cheaper. That's what the club is about. And their first meeting is Thursday, May 1st from 12 to 1 and JSSB 330C, and they'll have pizza. So
Perfect. Any other open floor announcements, updates? Real quick, I have one out of President's Cabinet. I think for sake of time, I'm going to see, Stephen, if you would be willing to share the federal policy update that you shared with the CMEI student employees in the TSAC chat as well, because that was essentially what was covered for a good portion of the President's Cabinet meeting. We also talked a lot about the accreditation process and how the new executive order could possibly affect it. I'm happy to go into more details in that offline for sake of time. There was a policy that moved on to President Davidson just regarding branding and just making it a little bit more accessible and making sure that we are meeting certain requirements. And then there was a first read of a policy in regards to naming of facilities and endowed positions, just adding in a option for deanship and directorship naming opportunities and price points for that. So if you have any further questions, feel free to hit me up about that. Will, did you have an announcement open floor?
Yeah, so RAD is coming up, Roadrunners After Dark. I'm not sure. I know I signed up for the whole thing. I'm hoping we can get more counselors and delegates to participate for that. It does go from 5 to 9, but we have to set up a little bit earlier and leave a little bit later. So I know it was me, Matt, and one other person throughout the whole thing. And we would also like to enjoy Roadrunners After Dark, so if we can get more people to sign up, that'd be amazing.
I can resend that link as well. Mike?
I'll kind of be everywhere for Roadrunners After Dark. I'm not sure how that translates to like a time in the table type deal, but I'll be there at my table checking bags. I'll be kind of everywhere. So, but I can always help set up. So,
Will?
All right, I'll make this quick. It's more an indirect question for PR, but maybe I'll just, offline. Never mind. Sorry.
That's totally fine. I sent out the link, and as of this morning, I believe you, Matt, and Levi were signed up for the entirety of the time, and then we have 2 delegates helping with the setup. But yeah, if more people could help, that would be awesome, just so we can make sure we have enough coverage for bathroom breaks and people to go get food and be able to enjoy the concert a little bit as well. That would be awesome. Last but not least, advisors.
Good afternoon, TSAC. First, I want to offer congratulations to all the newly elected counselors. Way to go. I know I don't want to speak for the other advisors, but we're certainly excited to be working with you all. I think next year is going to be a really good year. Following this, Armando and I are having a strategy meeting to start talking about next year and what that's going to look like for you all. So that way you all have a fabulous council and how we can best support you all. So that's 1. 2, the refrigerator in the office has some Cocos left over from Friday. Let's make sure that we dispose from Monday. Let's make sure that we dispose of that because we don't want other forms of life to grow in that refrigerator. So it's probably reached its life expectancy at this point, and now it will start growing. As a reminder as well, please remember to fill out your nominations for the TSAC Paper Plate Awards. A link went out last week, and Armando and I are going to take a look at that hopefully within the next week or so, because inauguration is May 9th. And other than that, I yield my time to the other advisors unless anyone has a question.
Mike?
quick comment. For paper plate awards, say I make the award, will y'all print those out for us? Say I can make a lovely award.
Yeah, we'll print them out.
Brilliant. I'll buy
And again, just as a reminder, it doesn't necessarily have to be a certificate. You can put it on a paper plate if you want. You can truly present any kind of award and display it or create it how you want.
You said you sent it out, right?
It's
Like
in the
last
chat.
week?
Yeah,
Okay.
you probably have to scroll back a little bit.
Thank you.
Another congratulations per elections, but biggest thing is time for end of term / end of year reports per committee. So I will be sending out a template this time to help you all follow along better as to what we're looking for. Mainly this just to provide just documentation for the next year. This will be for the committees and for the delegates as to do a recap on all the work that they have done in their specific delegacy roles. So I will be sending that out probably top of next week with the full template and what we're expecting. So please be mindful of that. I'm going to have that due probably by May 9th or that weekend, May 11th. I will let you know in the email formally, but I do know it is coming up close to finals and I'm going to give you some proper time to think about that properly before you get into there. Yeah. Dr. Brown, do you have anything?
Yeah. I just wanted to offer my congratulations to the continuing counselors and all of the new folks who've been elected. Please, please, please make sure that you fill out the forms that Sam is going to be sending out to you all to accept your positions. Last year we had some people who didn't do that right away and it caused some issues. So just wanting to make sure that everyone does that and prioritizes that so we can make sure that we can confirm those positions and those roles. And just wanted to say and apologize that I haven't been as present as much over the past few weeks. I've had some personal stuff going on with my family. But I am hoping that next week I'll be able to be a lot more present and available and on campus. So thank you all for all your wonderful hard work and advocacy and all the great things that you're doing. I'm just really proud of this team and everything that you've been doing this year. So thank you.
No need to apologize, Dr. Brown, and thank you for sharing. Awesome. I think with that, I'm going to motion to end the meeting and move into a closed session.
I second that.
Do I have any objections? Any abstentions? All right. Have a great weekend.